Well, out of any of the newcomers to join the American Athletic Conference this season, these UTSA Roadrunners may be the best off to immediately contend for a conference championship. Why? Well, even though their star receiver is gone, hey, your multi-year, long-time starter and star quarterback is back. He's got a lot of talent around him. There's a lot of talent defensively. But can this UTSA team overcome the steps that it needs to play in the American Athletic? Or is this team going to fit in right away and win a conference title in 2023? What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate. Welcome to my channel. I'm predicting all 133 FBS level college football teams this summer, and that means I am doing your favorite team. So hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you know when your favorite team gets uploaded, but there are more ways than that you can help me support my channel. You're doing one right now by watching the video, and you can do more by liking, commenting, sharing, and anything else you are willing and able to do to help me support my channel. This was the last team that I did in preview predictions last year. Well, now it's the second team we're doing in the group of five. They have been really good for many years, led by a great head coach in Jeff Traylor. The UTSA Roadrunners are going to be another good football team in 2023. Hey, how do preview predictions work on my channel? Well, we go through a roster overview and look at who the team lost, who's coming back, and who's coming in through the transfer portal and recruiting class, as well as taking a look at the 2023 Roadrunner football schedule, and we'll preview it game by game and predict it. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Roadrunner football in 2023. Quarterback position, what are we looking at here? Well, as my intro stated, yes, Eddie Lee Marburger does come back, but the main star of the show, Frank Harris, is back for another season in a Roadrunner uniform. I believe his sixth or even seventh year. Crazy how long he's been at this program. But 4,059 yards on almost 70% completion last year with 32 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. I believe he can cut back on that interception number a little bit, but all in all, a phenomenal talent at the quarterback position for Frank Harris. If that 4,000 yard mark doesn't tell you anything, well, he did have some really good receivers. We'll get to that in a minute, but he's a phenomenal talent. He's a very, very experienced quarterback. He'll be really, really good again in 2023. Make no mistake about it. The running back room. Well, there is some depth that leaves the running back room for sure. Brendan Brady had 699 yards and 9 touchdowns last year. He is going to be gone, as well as former Arkansas transfer Traylon Smith, not utilized a ton last year, but did get 54 carries, had 190 yards and 2 touchdowns last season. You do return your leading rusher last year, though, after trying to replace Sincere McCormick. Kavorian Barnes was your leading rusher last season at 851 yards and 6 touchdowns, and not to mention Frank Harris's rushing ability as well, 600 yards with 9 touchdowns on the ground for him last season. And again, we've already established that he is coming back. You do get a couple transfers coming in to help bolster the running back room up, though, to kind of replace some of the depth of Brendan Brady and Traylon Smith. Rocco Griffin is a 3-star transfer coming over from Vanderbilt. And then there are a lot of community college transfers entering this team, one of them of which a running back over from Jones College in Mississippi, 66 overall rated player out of a community college. The second overall running back, it's Robert Henry to help give that running back room some depth. In the wide receiver room, well, Zachary Franklin, of course, is a big loss. About halfway through spring practices, he decided to go transfer over to Ole Miss. He had 1,137 yards and 15 touchdowns on 93 catches for the team last season. However, even with him gone, there's still a ton of talent in this wide receiver room for UTSA. Joshua Cephas had 87 catches, 985 yards, so very close to 1,006 touchdowns. DeCorian Clark, 741 yards, 8 touchdowns. And then Tyke Ogle Kellogg, among some other names, are still good options in the wide receiver room. And you get a transfer coming into this program as well. Hey, it's coming out of a junior college. That's Kilgore Junior College out of Kilgore, Texas. It's Willie McCoy, the 84th overall player, coming out of a community college or a JUCO college. He'll be a nice boost in the wide receiver room this year. Tight end wise, well, Oscar Cardenas, who was your 4th leading receiver, 438 yards and 2 touchdowns. He comes back, as well as Dan Dishman, who did have double-digit catches for the team last season. And on the offensive line, well, you do lose Ohafitu Maka and Kevin Davis, while you return Walker Batty, Ernesto Alvarez, and Terrell Haynes, and get another community college transfer in, the 10th overall rated recruit coming out of a community college out of Iowa Central. It is Daniel Ogundipe. Again, apologies for any mispronunciations on the offensive side and any future ones on the defensive end. But this offense is slated to be really, really good again for the Roadrunners in 2023. Now, defensively, well, what can we expect? Well, you can expect a really good defensive line because look at all this experience that comes back here. Osiris Simon, Brandon Brown, Nick Booker Brown, Tremaine Bell, Ronald Triplett, Joe Evans, among many, many more names return on the defensive line for UTSA. And get this, they even make it better. They get a transfer coming in Nano Onyewu, who's the 60th overall rated player coming out of a community college. That's Coffeyville Community College out of Coffeyville, Kansas. So it's going to be another really good defensive line for the Roadrunners this season. In the linebacking unit, you do lose Trevor Harmonson and Dadrian Taylor, two pretty good players. Harmonson was the team's third leading tackler last year, had 68 tackles for the team last season. But when you take a look at who's coming back in this linebacking unit, well, none other than your leading tackler in Jamal Ligon, 90 tackles, had a pass defended and a sack last year. Trey Moore also returns for this linebacking unit, 8 sacks for him on the season last year. I do believe that was the team high. Yes, it was. Danye Taylor and Avery Morris also come back for this team as well. This is going to be another really good linebacking unit for UTSA. But what about the secondary, Nate? Tell us about the secondary. Well, Corey Mayfield and Clifford Chapman are gone, and these are substantial losses in the secondary for the Roadrunners, as Mayfield had 12 passes defended, 3 interceptions, and Chapman, well, it only gets better. 14 passes defended and 5 interceptions for him last year. Those are 2 top 5 tacklers, great players on this defense that you're going to miss dearly on this Roadrunners team. However, there is a lot still coming back. Nick Troy Fortune, Kalichi Nwachukwu, Ken Robinson, Rashad Wisdom, DeJuan Griffin, and you get a transfer over in Elliott Davison as well. So all in all, when you look up and down this roster, this is a very talented roster and a roster that absolutely is immediately ready to contend in the new look American Athletic Conference. Your head coach is Jeff Traylor, your offensive coordinator is Justin Burke, and your defensive coordinator is Jess Lope. As we take a look at the Roadrunners football schedule for 2023, any game at home is going to be underlined, and any game on the road will be in italics or the slanted text. So any game you see in green is a game that I think the Roadrunners will win easily. Any game in yellow is, hey, the other team might trip them up, maybe give them a good challenge, but the Roadrunners should be able to win. And then red is a loss. So without further ado, talking about the Roadrunners in 2023, we start out with a game on the road against the Houston Cougars. Now, the Cougars are no longer in the American Athletic Conference. They are in the Big 12 Conference, and it may be a struggle for Dana Holgerson's group this season as Clayton Toon, Alton McCaskill, Nathaniel Dell are gone. A lot of talent on defense is gone as well. However, when you take a look at what comes back for that team, and especially what comes in, there's a lot of talent through the portal. There are still some good returning pieces, but all in all, I do see UTSA as the better team. This was a classic, very, very fun game last season. I expect it to be another fun one this year, but I do believe UTSA being that better team, I think they'll have more experience on this team as well based on what all they have returning. They'll go on the road and beat Houston for a week 1 win. At least that is what I am predicting. I think it'll be an easy win against Texas State. That's a team that, well, loses a lot of talent from, or I should say to the transfer portal out of the Sun Belt Conference. I don't think they project well this season. So that should be a win for UTSA. And then you got a game Friday against Army here in week 3. This is going to be a very interesting game. I think Army's a very interesting team this year. We could see a modernizing of that Army offense with an offensive coordinator coming over by way of Nebraska Kearney in Division II. His name is escaping my mind right now, and for that I apologize. But when you take a look at Army this year, still a lot of talent offensively. That defense is going to be rubber-nosed, hard-nosed. It's going to play very, very physically for this Black Knights team. But again, I still see UTSA being better. I think Frank Harrison, that offense, is going to end up scoring a lot of points here. And I think the defense will be good enough to slow down this Army triple option threat. Maybe the offensive system isn't quite in the bill yet. It's going to be a close competitive game, but I do see UTSA walking away victorious before you get a hard game against the Tennessee Volunteers, which I think you're going to end up losing. Joe Milton and company are no joke. That's a team that, even though they lose a lot of talent from last year, especially out of that wide receiver unit with Jalen Hyatt, Cedric Tillman. It's an offense that I still think is going to be very explosive this year. Now, the defense does have its questions, and that's where UTSA could really sneak up on them. That's where UTSA could really do some damage. But Neyland Stadium, a very tough place to play. Joe Milton is one of the biggest arms in the entire nation. I think Tennessee will do too much on offense for UTSA to keep up with, and the Roadrunners suffer their first loss of 2023. But hey, you get a good bye week. So bye week right after a road game, before a road game against Temple, which could be pretty tricky. I think Temple's going to improve from where they've been in the past couple of seasons. Maybe that's a team that ends up making a bowl game. There's a lot of nice talent on it. I just think UTSA has more talent on it. So I believe the Roadrunners will be winning that Week 6 matchup on the road against the Temple Owls. And I also believe they will be beating a familiar team to them, a team out of the Conference USA ranks in the UAB Blazers. Trent Dilfer is a head coaching hire that I am not buying quite yet. That's a team that has had pretty good success ever since it has reinstated its football program. But this year, I'm kind of skeptical on it. I think they have some good talent, but coaching, I think it's going to take a little bit for them to adjust to the ranks of college football, especially with Trent Dilfer and the inexperience that is on that coaching staff. So give UAB some time. They may be really, really good again, but for right now, UTSA definitely better. They win that game. And hey, look at this. On the road against FAU, another team coming from Conference USA that I think are going to be really, really tough to play. Florida Atlantic did some great things in the transfer portal, notably bringing in Casey Thompson, but what that team lacks is depth. They're not a very deep team on the surface. When you look at their starters, I think that can be a very solid team that can have a very successful season, but depth is going to cost them in a couple games here. They may keep this one close. They may keep it competitive, but I think UTSA has too much talent, especially too much depth, especially on the defensive side. They're going to be able to slow down Casey Thompson in that attack. UTSA will win the game. And I also think they're going to beat East Carolina as well. That's a Pirates team this year that is really going to be a new look team. While I still think that team is going to be pretty solid, Holt Nailers, Keaton Mitchell, some really good players in the secondary and in the wide receiver position as well. That's going to be a new look team. It's losing a lot of talent from last season. I don't think they're going to be able to keep up with the firepower that UTSA brings with that passing attack, especially with what that team loses in the secondary to some pretty good players that they've lost over the past couple of seasons. So UTSA beats East Carolina at home. On the road against North Texas, well, that can prove to be challenging. North Texas lost a lot to the portal. It's going to still, in my opinion, be a very solid team, but it might be a new look team as well, a team that might change things up from some years prior as they also enter the ranks of the American Conference, much like UTSA, and that rushing attack could be second to none in the American this season. However, taking a look at that team as a whole, when you compare them to UTSA, the strength of that team may be that they have a great rushing attack, but UTSA has got more than enough bodies up front on defense to be able to slow it down. Maybe that's a game you highlight in yellow. In fact, probably should be highlighted in yellow in my opinion. I think North Texas will give this UTSA team some struggles, but the Roadrunners still walk away with a win. And I also think they will walk away with a win against Rice as well. Now, don't count out JT Daniels. I know it's a quarterback that I haven't been too high on, and he hasn't really proven a whole lot at the FBS level yet, but he's got some good skill position players there at Rice. That defense has some good pieces, but all in all, I do think that is what lacks at Rice this season. I think UTSA offensively will be able to run over them and get the win. Same kind of story here against South Florida or USF. That's a team that I think is building up, but I think it's going to be a slow build-up. I think they'll be better than what they have been. I think there's some good pieces on that roster, but no question UTSA is the more talented team. And then we get to this game. This game is going to fly under the radar in rivalry week. Of course, you have the game, the Iron Bowl, maybe LSU, Texas A&M. There are Florida State. There are a lot of other good rivalry games out there, but this one, while it's not necessarily a rivalry, you have to tune in to this one. Tulane, the American champs last year, UTSA, the Conference USA champs last year. This is going to be a brawl, head-to-head matchup. This really is a coin flip game, but I went with home field advantage here. The Tulane Green Wave return a lot from last year. They'll be really good again, and I think they hand UTSA a loss, which leads me to a record of 10-2. But make no mistake, this is a team that, again, if everything goes right and they can pull off the upset against Tennessee, which I don't see as impossible at all. Maybe the ceiling is more like 11-1. But this is the team that absolutely can make a New Year's Six bowl game, can contend for an American Athletic title right away with this new look conference. That's my prediction for the Roadrunners in 2023. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And as always, remember to play hard to tailgate harder. See all you guys in the next video.